because I'm always changing, the world is always changing, the companies that you're working in are changing. You're always going to have to figure it out. Hello everyone, I am finally back. It's been a while. My name is Katarina if you're new here. Today am going to talk about figuring it out. So this is the topic for today. Because, there are those of us who know exactly where they're going, what they want to do, where they're going in life. And then there are those of us, no matter what we do, there's always going to be something that we need to figure out. And I think most of us probably fit in a latter category. Few of us really are born and know exactly what they want to do for a living. And I wanted to talk about this and how I've recently kind of decided to adopt this figure it out mindset to feel more happy in my career and just in what I'm doing day to day without having this pressure to having to figure everything out all the time, which you do. We're gonna get there. But anyway, let's start from the beginning. I would like to tell a story just to kind of set the context of who I am a little bit and why I'm talking about this topic. So when I first started my career, so to say, I was living in Melbourne in Australia. This is where I grew up. I started my own small business when I was 16 and I was all in on this business. So I thought, yes, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, like a badass entrepreneur. And I had a social media marketing business at the time, helping smaller businesses, with their marketing. And I remember one of my clients said to me at the time, he owned a pizza restaurant, and he said, when you become a millionaire, make sure you think of us. And this obviously motivated me a lot. I mean, yeah, if someone tells you that, you're going to be like, yes, of course. And so this motivated me. I networked a lot. I did door-to-door sales, which I actually hated. I'm not a natural salesy person. I read all of the important business, personal development books, all of that. And I just kept going and going, even though I had this nagging feeling in the back of my mind that this is not it. This is not what you're supposed to be doing right now with your life. Might sound extreme, but yeah, I don't know. This was where my headspace was, and I already had a very strong, let's say, I had very strong values and very strong principles, and my gut was always very loud when something was wrong. And this was definitely one of those moments. And I don't know if you can have a quarter life crisis when you're 20, but this is what I was going through at some point. And everything suddenly overwhelmed me. I really was not sure where I was going anymore. And I was just not really having fun, and I just didn't know. Just didn't think that this thing, what I was doing, was what I was supposed to be doing. And problem was, I didn't know where else to go, what else to do. And so this frustrated me the most because I knew that what I was doing right now was not the thing that I want to be doing, but I also didn't know what would fulfill me instead. And so I think this is completely normal. Of course, when you're 20, you're super young, you're trying to figure it out. But yeah, I don't know. I was just feeling it very strongly, maybe a bit too much sometimes. And I had even mental breakdowns every 2 weeks. I would cry, I would talk to my parents and some friends and be like, oh, I don't know where I'm going, what I'm doing. And then it would generally all be okay after a period of time and I would be fine. But yeah, I just couldn't shake this feeling. And at some point though, I just said, hey, I have enough, this is enough. You don't need to put yourself through this stress. You're so young, you can do whatever you want to do. And so I did that. I started opening myself up to new opportunities, started looking around to see what else might be fitting for me and what could maybe even complement my current skill set. And I stumbled across this university in Berlin, and it was product management, and would be the intersection between psychology, business, people and tech, everything, all the things that I was interested in. And so I decided to go for it and just take a leap of faith and move to Berlin from Melbourne at the time to study. I mean, I'm also German, so this was not a complete crazy leap of faith, let's say. It was, I spoke the language, or I speak the language, and so, but it was a new city. And so moved there, And I had the time of my life, and I was having so much fun. I was learning things, and for a couple of years while I was at university, everything was all good again. I was trying things. I was trying out different jobs and work setups, like working as a freelancer, working as a working student, did internships, even try to start my own business again, like all of these sort of things. And I'm now in a full-time job, and I still, like, throughout this whole time, even in the bottom of it, there was always this nagging feeling, oh, this is not it. This is not it. Even though I'm, generally quite enjoying what I'm doing, I always have this nagging feeling that, I don't know, there's something about this that maybe is not right. And actually more than 50% or something is not quite right. And of course, there's always going to be things in your job that you might not enjoy. And I know that some people don't like, and for a period of time, maybe you just cannot work in any other job. It's not possible. But a lot of people of us, like, we do have a choice and we can decide what we want to do. And luckily, I'm in that position where I can decide what I want to be doing. And I realized after this, having this nagging feeling again, that you're always going to be figuring things out. Like, figuring it out is a constant theme in your life, and you are constantly changing. Your values are constantly changing, what you're interested in, what your needs are for your life. And so, of course, you're not going to be able to, like, it's never ending process. You're never going to get to this destination where you know exactly what you're doing and then, like, that's it. It's always going to evolve, and it's going to evolve even more because our world, as you probably know, is very dynamic. A lot is changing. Technology is emerging, AI, ChatGPT, VR, like, the way we work. A pandemic has really just changed the way our, like, where we work and just our attitude towards work a little bit as well. And all of these things combined are changing at such a rapid pace, and it's never going to stop. And so I realized that because of this, because I'm always changing, the world is always changing, the companies that you're working in are changing, you're always going to have to figure it out. Like, it might always, maybe sometimes it's a smaller thing, like a work setup within a company, or like making some tweaks there, or it is a complete, career change because you suddenly shifted interests, or like there's something where you're like, okay, this is where I want to go, or even like this the setup, or maybe suddenly you realize I want to actually start my own thing. I'm ready to do that. And so I feel like we're always going to have this mini, like, identity crisis, if you want to call it that. I mean, this is maybe a little bit extreme, but yeah, we're always going to be in this place where we're going to figure something out. And I think especially as Gen Zs, I am a Gen Z on the border. I was born in 97. I think especially as Gen Z, we are just overwhelmed by the amount of choices that we have, the amount of things that we can follow. There are so many opportunities out there, and we just never know which one to grab. It's like you're at the supermarket and there's like 10,000 bags of chips and types of chips, and you just don't know which one to grab, which one's going to be the best. And I think the truth is that there's not going to be one that is the best. Maybe there's a few that work better for you, but there's just not going to be one that's the best. And also maybe over time, you might want to grab a different bag of chips. And a stupid comparison maybe, but you get the idea. It's like, there's no right choice, there's no wrong choice, but you do have to get real with yourself and check in with yourself every now and then if you're still, like, on the right path for yourself, and if what you're doing is still aligning with you. And there's no shame in changing that at any point in your life if you are able to do that. If you um, obviously, I think it does make sense to think, responsibly in terms of, like, are you able to afford it? Like, are you in a position with family, with kids, like, can you do it? But I think there's always some way. And yeah, I think this is what we have to ask ourselves if we're in this position that we can make different career choices. And I want to share this framework with you, or this process that might help you to look at this concept of figuring it out in a different kind of way. So it's called design thinking. I feel like figuring it out is like design thinking. It comes from product development, and it's basically a process that allows you to design a product in a more kind of iterative, non-linear way. There are different stages to this. So the first stage is called emphasize, then we have define, Then we have ideate, prototype, and test. And so these are the 5 stages of this design thinking framework. And every stage is meant to not be a final stage. You can always come back to any stage that you need at any point in time. And I think that's a cool thing about this framework. And I think I try to kind of translate that to figuring it out in your career and how you might apply that. So I will explain each stage and tell you what I mean by that. So the emphasize stage, this is normally the stage that's all about getting to know the user that you're building a product for. So the person that's going to be using your product and really figuring out what they want, what their needs are, etc. Except in the career context, we're going to use this stage to figure out what we want to do. So get to know yourself. I think this is always the best stage. So you can do this at any point in time, like when you're stuck and where you feel like you need to figure something out. Get to know yourself, think about what is important to you, what are your values, how do you like to spend your time and your day, like what sort of activities do you want to be doing in the day, and think about really the intersection between all your skills and your needs and your abilities, also maybe called ikigai. You can also use that concept. So I think it does help because obviously our interests change a little bit, our values might not, they will probably pretty much stay the same throughout our lives. But I think it does help to get back to that and to see if anything changed from the last time maybe you did these sort of activities. And then get to know yourself and see, like, am I still in the right place? Is what I'm doing right now aligned with my needs? Then define. This is the next stage. So this is basically in product development, this is the stage where you define a problem statement that you want to solve. So in this career context, I would say you define a challenge that you want to tackle. So for example, we call these how might we questions. So how might we figure out an ideal working environment and setup based on my values and my ideal week, for example. And obviously then you need to be thinking about what are the current constraints for that, like what is maybe holding you back from creating that, like is it financials, is it skills, is it just where you live, like environment, all of that, time, all of these sort of things. And then you jump, once you have defined all of these, so you've defined your problem statement or your how might we statement as we call it, and once you've defined that and also defined the constraints, so the things that are holding you back from maybe creating that or getting there, is then you jump to the next stage. And the next stage is called the ideate stage. This is probably one of the most fun stages because this is where you get to brainstorm and come up with ideas and get creative and get crazy. And this is also used, in product development. This is also one of the most fun stages in my opinion, because you have this problem statement and then you put it in front of everyone, and then everyone in the group or team that you're brainstorming with, or maybe you're doing it by yourself, is coming up with ideas to solve it. And you can now do the same in a career context where you have this challenge that you defined, and then you use several different kinds of brainstorming techniques to think about, okay, how might we even get there? Like, how can we get there? And I think this is really exciting because it allows you to just get outside this box of thinking that you were maybe in before, because you can really get creative and get crazy. And maybe there are some ideas that might be unrealistic, and I think that's also always great to think a bit outside the box, but there might be aspects of these ideas that you can then grab and actually use to try things out, and maybe they're not so crazy as you initially thought they would be. So some of the brainstorming techniques that I think might be fun to do are the 6 thinking hats, reverse brainstorming, maybe even classical mind mapping, and I will link some other brainstorming techniques down below. There are definitely some really, really good ones, and I will kind of insert the best ones for this kind of activity in the description box. Okay, so now we're at the prototype stage. This stage is all about figuring out how to make it happen in the minimal way possible. So we also call this in product development, we call this minimum viable product. And this is basically the minimum effort you can put in to be able to try that if this idea works. Maybe you cannot like translate it so literally to your career. It might be a little bit tricky, but say obviously you have a business idea, you can easily try that out. You can think about, okay, what do I need to find out to make this, to validate if this business idea will work. So maybe talking to some people about it, trying to already just get your first customers, figuring out the needs of them, like etc. And then the other thing, if it's more career related, you could be, for example, talking to 10 people in the industry that you want to move into, for example. Or you could try an internship if you're at that sort of stage, or you could apply for a, or you could just already apply for a role and see if it works and see how it feels, see if you you know, like if you like the environment and like what the interview process is like, if you might want to, yeah, like if there are any skills that you will still need. So all of these sort of things can be done relatively easily, I could say. I mean, obviously there's always challenges, but these are things that you can try out and just get really creative. You can even do like a mini internship somewhere for like 2 days, for example, and just approach a company and be like, hey, can I just learn what it's like to work there and to be there and just help you out for free, for example. I don't know, not every option is going to be accessible for everyone, but you get the idea. So just be creative and prototype your experience. And once you've gone through the prototype stage, you're at the final stage of this design thinking process, and this is then called the test and learn, or test and get feedback stage. So this is where you then really reflect, and you're actually going to go do the thing that you've prototyped, that you've come up with. You're going to go do it and then think, how did it feel? How was that experience? Like, what did I learn from it? Is this aligned with where I want to go? Is this the right direction for me at the moment? And can I pursue this further? And just reflect on all of these questions and then learn from these, and then you can take the next action steps. And this might involve you going back to another stage, so maybe going back to the prototype stage, or the ideate phase, and just think about some more ideas based on the things that you learned. Or you move forward, and then for a while maybe you don't need to apply this design thinking thing, and you just then go for it, you know, go all in. Yeah, so that's the framework. That's how I see it, and that's what I'm trying at the moment in my own life, in my own career. And it's really helping, I think, and it's like really good to adopt this this constant learning mindset and this constant figuring out process, and just making it a bit more structured, maybe a little bit less messy, because I know some of us might be everywhere all at once in their head, including me. I'm definitely one of those people, but I think this is really giving me some peace and just something that I can go with or go by, and as I'm figuring it out. Yeah, and I think as a final thought before I wrap up this video is that it's, you know, you got to accept that it's okay to be figuring things out, and it's actually a good thing if you're figuring it out. It means you're growing, and it means that you're learning about yourself all the time, and that you are really looking for, you know, to really kind of get to a place where you're quite happy in your career and you're happy with what you're doing. And of course, this might always change. It might not always stay that way. And that's why we have this mindset. And yeah, I think it's also, obviously we shouldn't overcomplicate it sometimes. We shouldn't really take it to the extreme and just always be lost and always be looking for the next thing. I think there are times where we really need to just get down to business and really just put our heads in the, you know, not in the sand, what's the word, I don't know, just like really go all in and give things a good go before we then really fully evaluate them. But I do think that it's still a generally good process to go along with, and then to make sure you're on the right track. But yeah, anyway, before I ramble too much, this is all I wanted to share in this video. Let me know what you thought of this framework and this process, and just generally the process of figuring it out constantly in your life. And if you resonate with that or not at all, I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, if it was a little bit helpful for you, please give it a thumbs up. I would love to get this kind of feedback, and then I will see you in my next video. Bye.